Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to the invaluable advice that fueled their success. We are here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspective that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today we're excited to have Leo Bakerian with us. Leo is the driving force behind Professional Computer Concepts, a company that has been leading the way in IT and cybersecurity for over 2 decades. Under Leo's guidance, PCC has been empowering businesses in the Bay Area by streamlining their IT operations and providing robust protection against cyber threats. With his extensive experience and innovative approach, Leo and his team at PCC have become trusted partners for businesses seeking to navigate the complexity of the digital landscape. Please join me in welcoming the visionary Leo Bakerian to Protea Conversations. Welcome, Leo.
Hey, Zane. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. It's good to have an opportunity to sit down and talk to you and learn a little bit about your career. We've known each other for a few years now. We're practically neighbors, which is pretty interesting as well. But live and businesses in the same town. And, I met you through Provisors, and I've also been very fortunate enough that you've done a guest blog post, not one, but 2 for Protea Financial. And extremely insightful posts that I've learned a lot from, and it's nice to actually have the opportunity to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we always want to start right in the beginning. So talk us through how you got into the world of IT.
So let's see, where do I start? Gosh, all the way back middle school. I was like the kid always in the computer lab. Back then we had 2 computer labs. It was Macs and PCs, and the PC side of things had some software that was like digital arts, and you could make like little movies and things like that. But it was always interesting to see how those things worked. And when I was 14, I actually took apart my dad's computer when he wasn't home, laid everything out, and went, okay, I have no idea how this goes together. But that was kind of the spark. I don't know how all of this stuff makes a screen image and things like that. So I basically went straight from like middle school, high school. I had like a 2-week break, and then I went straight to Heald College in San Francisco. So I did 2 of their programs there, got like my MCSE, kind of corporate IT background. I was on the dean's list at a 4.0 throughout my entire time there. And I was hired 2 weeks before I even graduated, which was kind of nice. I worked for a subcontractor for HP that was in San Bruno. So it was quite a commute, but that gave me some good corporate like experience, and basically got me into the field a little bit more. And then from there, for that subcontractor for HP, basically they lost a very large contract, and then it was the last people in the door there were the first people to go. Although I'd gotten a lot of like HP certifications and things like that. And then I was laid off, and that was 22 years ago now. And that's when I kind of started Professional Computer Concepts, earlier on under a different name, but been doing that for 22 years from there. Started out of the garage of my house. Started out of a room. Then it was like, we're running out of room. Put up like 20-foot cubicles in the garage. Went from there, and then expanded to an office. And then we bought our building here that we're in. And that's how I got here today. So it's been an interesting journey.
So like any good IT story, it starts in a garage, but I want to go even further back, and I want you to talk through that story about taking your dad's computer apart. I would love to know what his reaction was when he got back and found it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty hilarious because it was interesting, like all of the green boards in there and all of the cables and things like that. So he basically dropped it off at like a local computer shop to put it back together, brought it over there in the box. But um, it was just interesting to see all of those parts and what they did and so on. So that was kind of the piqued interest over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I grew up with a lot of like friends that were very into computers. I had a friend that, his dad was a computer programmer, so he was programming from like 4 years old. So by the time we were allowed to do that in high school, we're making simple games that has maybe one or two commands, and he's creating
Mhm.
3D games, right? In the same software. We're like, I didn't even know you could do 3D images in this platform. You obviously started a little bit later than that, but I'm assuming like if you're tearing computers apart, you jump pretty much headfirst into the world of computers.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's kind of where my interest always was all throughout high school. Just the permissions, things like that, even into Healed, kind of doing like getting my own policy editor on a floppy disk, adding folders to the network drive nobody else could open, and uh, hack stuff a little bit, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of it's pretty interesting. You get to a point where you can see how far you can kind of push the boundaries, which that space right there, without crossing a line, you could learn a lot. So um,
And did you just
yeah.
sort of run headfirst into computers, or did it start from like a gaming background, or was it just like, oh, he has access to a computer and this seems like a lot of fun?
Yeah, it was. Let's see. It was basically head first into the computer stuff. I did. I mean, let's see. Going back to high school, I actually in the Nevada homeless shelter here. I helped put together in high school, like volunteer time, some of those computers over there. So by high school time, I was already putting stuff together, installing an operating system, and getting things going. So all the way back to Windows 98 days. So that kind of piqued the interest, and then I did the like I got some project to put together like how you should open a Word file, how you should do these things, and kind of teachers printed them out and like stuck them on a table as like a learning sheet. So it was kind of always there. Yeah.
And did your parents encourage it along the way? Like, there was that, like, I see you have this appetite towards IT. We probably should help Leo in this direction.
Yeah, it was. So they were less understanding of it. I got more help from like my uncle, which like went to UC Berkeley, gave me my first manual, which is like repairing IBM and PC compatible computers from like Borders books. I think I still have that thing around here somewhere. But that's where I kind of got into the like nitty gritty details and things like that. But that was pretty helpful. It was the same uncle that basically we went to Empire College and checked out their program there. We went to Heald in San Francisco. So that was kind of the driving force behind that. And that's basically it. My parents were more of a. My dad took a few computer classes, but definitely not his thing. I was more, let's say, rambunctious. Maybe there's some stuff I've that I can't say on video, but there's some interesting software that you could run back in the day when AOL was out. You could run some software to basically get you from those CDs to free internet, 250 minutes or something like that on dial-up. That probably wasn't so legit to do. So, but as a teenager, it was just like, get me to the internet. I didn't really care. Get me in my AOL chat room. So,
No, it's incredible. Like, I love hearing stories like this because I'm an accountant, and it wasn't like I was sitting in high school doing accounting problems because that's what I wanted to be,
mhm.
right? And it is such a practical, hands-on career, the computer space. Like, most people that are in the on the computer world is because they've like totally invested a lot of their time into it, love the space, love the opportunities to learn. Where I'm in a career where it's just like I'm good at numbers, I can understand problems, I can talk to people. Great, I'm an accountant, right? And
Yep, yep,
yours is sort of pushing these limits, and as we'll get into what you're doing right now and the introduction, there's this cybersecurity side of it. And what I love about that is you're protecting people from people like you, which is, the funny part is like, I can do what they're doing, but I'm gonna rather spend my time, you're sort
Yeah,
of like the Batman of the computer world, right? You could be evil, but you're rather protecting the people from the evil people.
yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely a very, very fine line between like ethical hacking and all around cybersecurity. Let's just say there's a lot to learn and there's a lot to prevent, and the tools that we were using, geez, even 5 years ago, none of those same tools are in place today. One thing we do normally, like we're like a 1 year cycle where we basically vet every single vendor. Is this still the best vendor for this? Um, is there something better out there? Not to the bleeding edge, but basically to the cutting edge, that we stay on top of this stuff all the time. Because if you don't stay on top of this stuff, I mean, there's really bad consequences for your company and your clients as well. So
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen it before where I got to, open an email that I shouldn't have. In hindsight, you read it, it looks like a legit email. Opened it because I thought it was a client. It wasn't.
mhm.
Windows only recognized that as a virus 3 days later. You know, it took a while for them to even realize, hey, wait a minute, that might be a problematic. It hadn't been on their radar to that point.
Mhm,
Luckily, I
mhm.
was running, as a paranoid person I was running virus checks every hour for about 2 weeks, which I know it doesn't help a lot, but it made me feel better at the point in time.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, even after you put all of that stuff in place, the human element there is always the part where things can kind of break down. I mean, we do a lot of cybersecurity training. We send out videos to clients, things like that. But what happens is when people get busy, when people rush, that's where that hacker lives, in that opportune moment to do something like that. So this is why we push the training, and we do the phishing, basically practice emails as well. So we'll get clients where their employees will click on it and it'll pop up to a video and say, hey, by the way, that was a phishing email. And if you would have put in your credentials, and this is what would have happened. And then we kind of get a report of who clicks those emails, who opens the emails, who puts in their passwords, and then we kind of have a discussion with the business owner that, hey, this person probably needs to have a conversation. And the way things are today, where everybody's remote, it's kind of tough for that business owner to be aware of what's happening. So we kind of let them know that in the background, or quietly. Or the other thing that we do is we basically deploy some privileged access management software, so the employees can't run whatever they want. I'll give you an example. A remote employee that was hired, this was probably 6 months ago or so, was trying to, in a like construction AutoCAD setting. So he had a high-end graphics card, and then he was trying to load Bitcoin mining software on his business computer. That was a red flag, blocked immediately, like can't do anything. And then you have a kind of conversation of, you don't actually own this. This is the business's computer. So
yeah, stop stop using their resources to benefit yourself.
yes, yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, the whole world is really interesting, and some people are smart, right? Like my one I got caught was because the literal email address was overtaken, right? It wasn't that it was cloned, it wasn't a fake email address. They got
Mhm.
access to it and they were sending it from that inbox, and everything looked legit, until it wasn't, which is not great. You know, it can happen to the best of us, but obviously I do like the interventions. We've implemented all of those. We've got the training, the pop-ups. I get the monthly reports. It's always good to see
Mhm.
nobody on that list. That's always great, though it does make me nervous that
Yeah.
maybe it's not sneaky enough.
Yeah, I mean, from that standpoint, I think what you're going to see in the future, whenever you're working with a vendor, I think people are going to start sending out vendor questionnaires that basically ask, like, are all accounts MFA? Do you have these protections in place, and so on. So when you're working with that vendor, you know those things are in place. And what's going to happen is a lot of these smaller companies that don't take security seriously, are basically not going to have any business, because when they get these and they answer them in a very specific way, it's going to be a red flag for somebody that is more secure and is willing to spend the time on infrastructure and security.
Yeah, my cyber threat insurance questionnaire gets longer every year. There's more and more questions that need to be completed.
Yeah, definitely.
I know this last cycle, training was the first time it was added to it. Do you have regular training? Are people informed about it? And it
hmm
obviously is unfortunate, but it is the world that we live in. The more connected we are, the more opportunities there are.
Exactly.
A lot of what you do, but let's drop back to the decision. So you were working for a contractor to HB, got laid off, the typical, last in, first out scenario.
Yep.
How old were you when this was all taking place? I mean, it feels like you were fresh out of college, basically.
Yeah, fresh out of college. How old was I? 21, 22, 21,
Wow.
something like that. So yeah, that's kind of where it ended up. Funny enough, my father-in-law also runs an IT company in Nevada, so I kind of like that kind of got me to a point where to say like I can do this, and I come from a family of basically everyone always has owned their own business, from my dad to my mom to my uncles and everybody. So we were always almost self-employed, and going all the way back to my grandfather as well. So that attitude of like I could be self-sufficient and I can run a business was kind of always there. So that's probably helped a lot to get to that point. The other thing that I really saw, kind of that corporate IT environment, I did not like that corporate IT environment, because it was more like a grinder. It was basically like use them as much as you can, get rid of them, and then the like new equipment would come in. The people doing the actual work would get the old equipment, and the new equipment would go kind of to the higher ups that weren't actually doing any huge work. Just that whole, let's say, that whole corporate politics thing, I was just didn't really fly with me, and that's why I run my company a little bit different, a little bit different than that.
I mean, having the influence and, the role models to start your own business is one thing, but it's still a gutsy decision to go into a space like IT that is difficult, just from what it is, right? It's competitive. There's a lot of people going, especially the area that we're in, and you're young and you're just like, let's go. Like, what was going through your mind at that time? I mean, again, you obviously had the support, you had the inspiration from your father-in-law, but there must have been some fear.
Oh yeah, there was definitely fear. I mean, there was definitely some fear from that, where it's like, okay, there has been no hours this month. Like, it's time to pay the mortgage. What's going on? Like, but what goes on the credit card this month, and what gets paid off that month? So you play that game a little bit early in the beginning. But one thing I found, that like my first client base ever was lawyers. Back in the day when like lawyers.com first came out, I went there, I grabbed the entire list, and I literally did a mailer and sent a mailer to every single lawyer within like 25 miles of here. And I put a card in there that said 1 hour free support, consulting, whatever you want. Just try me out. And just from that one flyer, and the way lawyers work with referrals, like my entire client base became lawyers. I would go to a single building in Santa Fe, get one lawyer in there, then have the person next door and the person next door and the person next door. So that's kind of how things started out. And my first client ever actually works for a law firm that is now also a client of mine. 22 years later. So yeah, word of mouth. The other thing that was a little bit different when I was doing it, like Office 365 wasn't a thing. There was not a lot of people were kind of afraid of the cloud. I was part of the Microsoft Champions Club. Office 365 used to be called Business Productivity Suite Online. That was the sell. So I would literally get people enrolled in the cloud off of local email servers, things like that, fairly quickly, and then they kind of noticed the cloud first attitude that their existing IT did not have, and I think that helped kind of propel us a little bit above the competition.
Yeah. So a lot of attorneys, what was their like main service that you were offering them at that?
I mean, back then it was mostly, fairly basic remote support, some basic like security antivirus features, and then when things went wrong, you just kind of pick up the phone, and support them. Back in the day, remote support wasn't really a huge thing. When Go to Assist, I don't know if you're familiar with Go to Assist, when they first came out with their like technical remote support, it was like a $15 remote connection fee every time, so you wouldn't get billed a travel charge. And now, looking back at that today, it's so funny where you start and where you end up, where it's just like, no, I expect you to be able to remote into my stuff anytime.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of time. Like, I don't even like think of this because my early careers were at a big audit firm at KPMG, and then I went to a company that was a technology company, right? So I either needed to phone somebody up in a different office, or if I was there, walk up to the department, hand them my laptop, and then the tech company, I would just go downstairs, hand it something like, something's broken, fix it for me, right? So that was my introduction to the world of like tech support because it was always in house. Obviously, going out on my own, it's become a very different world, and most of the time it's a video. And I find it funny because you mentioned that, and it's like every time I get on a tickle, they're like, "So can I remote into your computer?" Like, I'm like, "What else would you do?" Like, I get you asking permission, but at the same time, like, just send me the damn link. Like, let's just get going.
yeah.
And it is so different to what you're talking about in the beginning, where that wasn't the norm. Were you doing a lot of like house calls, a lot of like go to the attorney's office at that point, or wasn't that really? Were you able to dodge that bullet a bit?
Yeah, I dodged the bullet a little bit. It really depended on what was happening. So, for example, if we needed to upgrade somebody's software that had to be done on all of their computers and so on, I always found that sometimes it was easier to just like pop in 5 o'clock. All right, guys, thanks for the keys, and everyone just walk away, and kind of just doing that circle around the office real quick, doing the updates, things like that was fairly easy. Although today, like a lot of that stuff, you could just automate, so it's not really a huge deal. I mean, the computer setups from years ago versus today. I mean, the way some of our clients are configured, you literally pull a laptop out of a box, sign in with your email address and password, click a few things, and the majority of your software is automatically installed. All of our security suites are automatically installed. Your computer setups really go down from, yeah, drop it off, I need it for a day or 2 days, to like an hour max, something like that.
Yeah.
That's if they're set up properly.
Very interesting. So 22 years later, how has that suite of services changed from where you started, and what are you offering right now?
Yeah, it's pretty huge. The way I look at it is, you kind of need a specific set of tools and skills to kind of run a successful managed IT firm. And what tends to happen with other IT companies is they'll have like the basic plan, or the gold plan, or the silver or platinum or diamond or whatever. What ends up happening with that is they kind of put themselves at a disservice, because all of the software that's required and all of those services that are required are not there. So in those lower plans, today we offer a single plan. We cover the end user themselves. And the reason we do that is we want to know about all of their devices. So what happens a lot of times is, let's say you're getting nickel and dimed with a service provider that says, well, I'll charge you this much for your cell phone, and this much for your laptop, and this much for your desktop, and this much for your home computer. I don't care about all those devices. All of those devices need to be secure. So that's kind of the difference there. And then we also provide unlimited IT support. So call us as much as you want. So when your employee is not sure is this a real email? Is this a legit email? I'm not sure. They don't ask somebody from the office. They just forward it to our support team and say, is this real? Is this legit? And that way they have a true expert look at it, and it doesn't cost them anymore. Because that unlimited IT model, what happens when you hire someone where you're paying them kind of hourly, or that they just bill you when stuff breaks, they really don't have their goals are not aligned with you. Their goal is to work as many hours, make as much money, and your goal is to not pay that many hours and let's say not pay that money. What happens when we're on an unlimited support model and you're with us, the more you call, the less money we make every single time. So our goal is to make sure you're always fully operational, fully functional, no downtime, because if any of those things happen, we start losing money on the contract. So that's kind of how we differ from previous days of doing things.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's in your benefit to work harder to make things work, but it also gives a situation where you feel more comfortable that something potentially less damaging than what could happen is happening, because people feel comfortable to ask the questions, not going, I better not call, it's going to cost, and then my boss is going to ring me up again because I made too many phone calls.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, there was one other piece there, drawn a blank. Anyways, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great model, and I think it's really helpful, especially, I'm assuming you still have a lot of professional service firms that use your services.
Yep. So basically, professional services, a lot of legal, construction, manufacturing. Those are the kind of three that we typically work with. Yeah, professional services is kind of where we started.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that is a place where there's a lot of valuable information. Having somebody looking after you, and specifically the cybersecurity part. And we obviously touched about it a few times, but I don't know if you want to elaborate on sort of what you do for clients there, other than the phishing testing. Like, what is the general service offering that you're putting forward to people to protect them?
Yeah. So there's a few different pieces. I guess I can touch on a few of them, because a lot of the like with our plan, we go all the way down to providing you and your employees, even on their personal side, a password manager. Like, it goes all the way down to that detail. The reason being is there's way too many pieces where things can fail. I mean, if your employee is saving passwords to a web browser, I mean, that's a quick link to pull all the passwords out of there and get compromised and send those somewhere else. What we really try to do is make it so your employee can't kind of harm the company. That's where we put in place like enhanced detection response software, privileged access management software. I mean, I could keep naming acronyms here, but we kind of make it so if they try to do something bad, they're either blocked from it, they're DNS filtered from it, so they can't go somewhere to have something bad happen to them. We block stuff from coming in so something bad doesn't happen. And then we prevent them. So even if they plugged in a USB memory stick with a piece of software and tried to run it, it's not going to work. Even if we prevent them from downloading it, even if they plug it in, it's still not going to work. So kind of locking down that environment. I mean, even on our own environment, I'm not even an administrator on my own computer, on my own Office 365 portal, none of that. You have to kind of do this separation, because a lot of those like administrative rights and things like that, like you're shooting yourself in the foot. All it takes is one incident for somebody to be able to move sideways through your network and get into other things.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of acronyms. A lot of it went straight over my head, but what I'm hearing is we make sure you don't get in trouble by giving you the tools and applications to help your team members make less mistakes.
Exactly. So.
Right. I mean, I'm assuming that it's more than just you at this point, right? There's some other people helping you out.
Yes. So it was 9 of us. We had one person had to go deal with an elderly family member for a little bit, but they'll be back. We just hired another person Monday, so we're still growing. We're really trying to grow the company and get it to a point where there's nobody wearing two hats. That's the goal right now. Is nobody wears two hats, and we're close to getting to that point where the company runs itself. We have so many probably over 700 documents in our operations guide. Everybody knows exactly what to do, exactly in what scenario, how things work. We use a lot of diagrams, just so this company can operate without me being here, or if somebody key leaves, everything's always documented. That's one thing that I feel like a lot of businesses lack, is the documentation, the processes, things like that. And that's one thing that we are super hardcore about. And even for our clients, if we ever touch something at your business, there's probably we use IT glue, but we document it in IT glue. So you have access to it. We have access to it as well. That's kind of there.
Yeah, I think that's a good message for all business owners, that, documenting everything about your business is really important, because you never know when you're going to step out the door and knocked over by a bus, and people need to know how to find things, right? So it's
Yeah.
a really important piece of advice. I know we're personally going through a process right now where we've got a lot of things documented, but it's all over the place. So we're trying to bring it all together, right? And make sure that everything is easily accessible. And most importantly, move the stuff out of my head onto a piece of paper. Because I think that's where a lot of business owners fall short, is that it is documented, just not documented in a way that most people can follow.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we do around here as well. It's like one hand up, one hand down. You're always learning from someone above you, and you're always teaching somebody below you. So that's what we really try to facilitate here. If you are doing something where nobody else knows what you're doing or how to do it, you bring somebody along, and it's that person's responsibility to document it while they're watching it as well. It really puts things into perspective. It helps people learn. So yeah, it's super important for the documentation aspect there.
No, that is incredible. And, that's an additional service if you're giving your clients as well, that they can see exactly what you've done for them, when it's happened, what's going on. And I mean, in terms of security, well, what a better way, right? You can trace exactly where point of failure happened.
Exactly. And one other thing I will point out there, a lot of other IT companies don't provide that information to their client. So all of the passwords, static IPs, how things are set up, printer configurations, all of those pieces there. I mean, if something was to happen to your IT company, what happens from there? And a lot of business owners should really be asking that question of, what happens when my IT person disappears? I mean, I've seen it multiple times, one man IT show, or one person working in your IT department, and something happens to them, and everybody goes scrambling for the hills. I've seen that situation too many times. That's why we basically provide all of our clients a way to log in. We call them change approvers. So if you're a change approver or a business owner, you have access to this portal where you can view any passwords we've ever touched, any documentation we've ever created, and so on. So that's an important piece. If that's the only piece you take away from here, make sure you have that.
Yeah, and I can add into that. I saw a situation where everything was documented, but the IT person had everything so well protected that when they did get sick, nobody could get in. It was just everything was encrypted. The passwords were 70 characters long. They had one of those auto generator password things, and it was just okay, that great documentation doesn't help us if we can't get to it. So it makes me go. I mean, it basically put things at a standstill for a couple of days, and that's not a position you want to be in as a business. I mean, everything was safe, doesn't mean they could operate, so it's tricky.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your experience with a managing team. I mean, I'm just assuming when you first started out, there wasn't much management, and now there's 9 people, and there's some management that needs to take place.
Oh yeah, I mean that's also an interesting one, because before it was basically it was myself, and then a little bit later down the road, it was myself. My wife would be doing some of the bookkeeping stuff, HR stuff, and then as the team grew, we really had to figure out who's going to be a fit. Because what happens in my industry, you have a lot of people that are like, I have all of the certifications, I've got this and this and this and this. And we've hired those people in the past. But what happens is they are of a condescending nature at times with clients, and they are like, I want to work on my thing and I don't want to be bothered, and you get this like weird personality, and it's a negative energy that happens in the office. So early on, and my wife comes from an HR background. She worked for Dow Pharmaceutical Sciences in Petaluma in their HR department as well. So early on, we decided I can train skills. That's the easy part. You cannot train personality. Like it's very difficult to change people. They're going to be set in their ways. So early on, when we were building our team, we basically looked and saw how that person would fit into the team. Are they going to be collaborative? Are they going to hold on to whatever knowledge that they received or got? Or are they going to share? So that's kind of how our team started to grow, is in that direction. We've got our service manager has been with us for almost 10 years now. So a lot of our employees are 5 years plus. The person that's taking a small sabbatical right now worked with me back in '05, worked with us for a while, and then left for a little bit and then came back. And then he's leaving for a little bit and he'll be back probably in 3 months or so. But people stick around once they start to work with us. I kind of like to think of this as like a family-run business, and once you're in here, you're kind of part of the family. We're super heavy on the benefit side of things, the work-life balance. Like, you should, if you're working for me, you generally don't work past 5. You don't work weekends. We have some like on-call things, but I really push for that work-life balance, because I've come from a spot where I'd get up at 6, 7 a.m., get going, get through my day, and by the time I was done, it was like 10, 11 o'clock. No, well, now I have to do billing, and then I do billing, and I do my QuickBooks and all of that, and it's 1 a.m., and then go to bed, rinse and repeat. I've come from that standpoint. I don't want my employees to ever be in that kind of spot. So
Yeah, and it obviously talks very highly of the culture that you develop, that people want to stick around. I know one of the complaints I hear from a lot of IT service providers, you can't keep people. They're constantly jumping to the next shiny object. And I think, that's a testament to what a great job you've done with your culture to be able to keep people around for that.
Yeah. It's our employees definitely feel it, and then our clients also feel it. Our average client's been with us over 10 years.
Wow.
So that's pretty huge in the IT field. What happens a lot of times, especially in that MSP field, they call it churn and burn. Like, as many people are coming through the front door, just as many people are leaving through the back door.
Yeah.
And once they've got them under that contract and keep things going, it's almost like, all right, the sales guy's done, washes his hands of it, walks away. And that's something we don't do. We really want to be on the same side of the client. We want to know how they do things, how they function, how we can make things better, improve things. For some of the clients, especially in the manufacturing space, like, it's a huge game changer. The way they were doing things before and the way they're doing things now, and getting things just kind of digital. Another thing that I tend to do a lot of as well is I'll sit in if a client is looking for a new ERP, a new document management system, a new whatever. I want to make sure that system fits them. So I will actually sit in on some of those calls, ask some of the tough questions like, well, is this single sign-on? Is this going to work with my Office 365 environment? So they're not having to type in a secondary password into this. And that's kind of we go in a little bit deeper than I think your typical IT company would go.
Yeah, that's definitely a value add. Normally you having to hire a specialist to help you with those types of questions in those areas. We get asked those questions all the time as well. Probably not the right person to be asking IT type questions, but let's ask them because maybe they know better. So that is a great value add. You mentioned sort of treating your team as a family, and I love that. It's one of our values is family. And
Mhm.
the sort of thing that popped in my head is I'd love to understand, like, when you are trying to hire people, what is the one value that you're looking for in those people? Like, what is that like? If I see that in them, I know that they could work well within our group.
Yeah, I'd almost say this would probably sound corny, but the thirst for hunger, or like that they're hungry, they want to learn. That's the biggest thing. I mean, some of the interview questions sometimes are, hey, if I said I'd give you an extra 5K if you go get this cert, how fast would you go get it? If it's like I'll have it tomorrow, like I know that's my guy.
Yeah.
So, so again, from that personality, the caring personality, you kind of ask some questions as well, to see how fair they are. Like one of our core values is fair. Are you going to be fair with clients, or are you going to be fair with different things? Back from that corporate environment, I saw a lot of stuff happen where like that's not fair. Just to give you an example, like one of the techs lived in like Vallejo, and then the way they were scheduled, they finished off in San Jose, and they said, okay, clock out when you're in San Jose. That's it. That's the end of your day, and then your drive home is on you. So that kind of stuff in that corporate environment drove me bananas. Um, it's and that's something different over here. Like if I've got an open door policy, if you're ever having an issue, if anything's ever going on, come talk to me. Like that's one thing I always wanted to do, is I wanted to make sure that people can approach myself or Gloria in any way. But back to your question here with when you're interviewing them, if they have that thirst for knowledge and the personality, and we think it's going to be a fit, that's how we hire.
Great. So, doing this for 22 years, I'm sure there's been some challenges along the way. What has been the biggest challenge in the 22 years of running?
So for me personally, it was probably the same thing that you were having, is getting everything out of my head, documented on paper, because it's kind of a funny term around here. Is like, is that a Leo no thing, or is that something that's documented? So
I mean,
that part.
it's better than what they say to me. Like, did you actually say that, or did you say that in your head? So,
Yeah, I've heard that too. So that was that piece of getting all the knowledge out of my head, documented, so other people kind of do it. But the other piece here was the like learning to let go and learning to release things and learning to trust people. I think a lot of times people don't really like they're afraid and they micromanage. And as soon as you start micromanaging your employee, like that doesn't work out well. Doesn't work out well for you. Doesn't work out well for them. And then one thing I see is like there's this curve, and as you are training your new person to do whatever task it is, they're going along just fine, and then they something happens, and they break something, or they don't do something properly, and then it's like, oh, I'm going to seize that role right back, and there's no like learning of it. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have passed that on, and you can't do that. Like that's the worst way to train somebody else and get things going. But you have to kind of, you train them, you watch them do it, they watch you do it, you watch them do it, and then you let them off on their own. And sometimes there's a slip, and when that slip happens, you kind of have to like reevaluate and make sure that, all right, we're all on the same page, it's okay that this thing happened, and let's keep going. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be the guy wearing 20 hats, and your business is going to be suffering. This literally last week with this new like we did my person did a scope of work, statement of work, did all of that. They met with the client, signed it off, and all of a sudden I just see a project show up. You're like, holy cow. I had zero involvement, and it just went off without a hitch. I didn't even know it was happening. So that's the part that's like challenging, is trying to keep your hands off off of that. That's a big one for me anyway.
No, I think, one of the secrets to success of a leader is learning to trust people. And
Mhm.
it will make such a big difference in your life, but it is also one of the hardest things to do. Because, as you mentioned in the beginning, when you start these businesses out, you're just doing it all. You're
Mhm.
wearing 500 hats, doing roles of way too many people, putting in the hours. And it's sometimes hard to see past it, like somebody else can do this.
Mhm.
Very good chance they can do it better than me, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what they do. And being able to learn to trust people is so freeing and so good for your business. As long as you provide the training and resources, those people will most likely they have a better chance of being successful if you trust them than if you don't.
100%. So,
22 years in, what are your short-term goals for your business?
I mean, right now it's basically like to grow the team, um, create better leaders inside of my own team. That way we can hire. We generally hire from within. So anytime there's a new spot to fill or I'm releasing a hat, things like that, I try to pull people up from within and bring them up to speed. So that's kind of my short-term goal is getting everyone to a point where when a new person comes in through the bottom, they can climb the ranks a little bit. So that's that's kind of it, and just get them to professionally improve themselves without like we do education reimbursement for if education reimbursement, even to the point where hey, this might not be IT related, but it kind of could be. It's a programming thing. I know we don't do programming here. Come talk to me.
Yeah,
Chances are I'll let you do that, or we'll reimburse you for that.
that's great. That's another amazing perk for your team as well. And it's probably why people stick around. Those are
Yes.
the small things that make a big difference. What is one piece of advice that you received early on that really helped you, right the ship, set the path for yourself?
Um, let's see here. One piece of advice. I think one of the best ones was basically middle of my business career is like go read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Reading that and kind of going through it, it's like, oh my God, this is me. This is what I am doing. That was a huge piece of advice that kind of got me a little bit further thinking to work on the business instead of in the business. That's a big one. And then the other piece of advice was getting a business coach that's like in the field, that they've done it before, and that was super helpful, at least for us. Like if I'm working with a business coach that's already built a $30 million MSP, they've already landed in all those potholes and they know what to avoid. So those were the kind of two good pieces of advice.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of under mentioned piece of advice for business owners or people in general. Find mentors, find coaches, find people that are willing to help you along the way. Somebody
Yeah.
that's a sounding board. You can't do it by yourself. It always does require some help. You can get so far by yourself, but getting that advice, having somebody to like listen to your crazy ideas, and we all have
Hmm.
crazy ideas as business leaders, and to tell
Yeah.
us, yeah, maybe that'll work, or maybe you're being absolutely crazy and you should maybe back up. And those are important, important conversations to have because it will allow you to move forward rather than roll backwards.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a huge one. And initially, I kind of fought that idea of like I know what I'm doing. I don't need somebody else to tell me what I'm doing. And it's so much different when somebody else from the outside is able to look in and kind of point to like that's where that's failing. And the other portion that I feel here is like you could if you're trying to hit your goal, you could probably shorten that time at least in half by having some kind of business coach with you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes helps taking the emotion out of it, right? They're just coming in there
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
looking at it cleanly. Leo, I appreciate everything you've told us about your amazing company, Professional Computer Concepts, and the 22 years of success you have. But the listeners want to learn a little bit more about Leo the person. So can you share something interesting about yourself that will give us just a glimmer into who you are on a day-to-day basis?
Got it. Let's see. How far back you want to go here? So,
Whatever you want to share.
okay. So let's see. English is not my first language. How about that?
That
So
is almost unbelievable, but
yeah. So I actually came to the U.S. When I was 9, um, and I was actually born in Israel. So I was born in Israel. I went to an all-boy Catholic school, a French Catholic school in Jerusalem, Le Frere. So that was kind of my upbringing, was like around priests and nuns, and learn my multiplication table with a ruler like that. They're very strict. I came here. I didn't really speak the language. My dad worked for the UN, and he spoke like, God, 7 or 8 languages at the time when we first came here. But one thing, I'm Armenian. One thing that I kind of feel when we first came here, it was like English only in the house. And that was, while it worked out because I don't have an accent, I think in English, and it goes from there, but you lose kind of the language aspect of things. So that's where it was good and bad. That's something interesting about me. There we go.
and something I never knew, so which is really great as well. So thank you for sharing with that.
Yeah, yeah.
At Protea Conversations, we like to end with some rapid fire questions.
Mhm.
So if you are ready, I have 5
Uh-oh.
rapid fire questions for you.
Yeah, that only depends on if they are security answers to other questions, if I will answer them.
Yeah, it's what's your mom's maiden name? What's your pet's
There we
name?
go. Yeah,
What
there we
street
go.
did you live on? Okay, great. So let's go with these rapid fire questions.
Yeah,
They're super
yeah.
easy. Let's start with number 1. What would your death row meal be?
Oh, geez. Probably sushi. Yeah, I love sushi. My entire family loves sushi.
My kids love it as well, and it is a very expensive, wish I never introduced them to meal at this
Yes,
point in my
yes.
life.
My kids are the exact same way. So it's kind of hilarious. We started them off super early. Like
Yeah.
they were eating raw salmon at like age 7 or 8 or something like that. And the people at the sushi place were like, "What's going on here?"
Yep, my 8-year-old's favorite meal is poke, so
Yeah.
I've got some serious problems in my hand. If you had to choose a vacation and your options were mountain or ocean, which one would you choose?
Mountain or ocean? Ooh, that's a tough one. I typically like to go cruising, but I also love mountainous regions. I guess I would pick oceans.
Great. What is a quality you appreciate in a good friend?
Honesty, like blunt truth. How does this look? How does this sound? Like be bluntly truthful with me. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's always a great quality. Is there
Yeah.
a favorite book that you could recommend to listeners?
Business wise, I would say E-Myth. Go read it tomorrow.
Anything else on the maybe less business side?
On the less business side, I really enjoyed Born to Run. I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
One of my favorite books.
Yeah, what Born to Run is a good one. Is it You Are What You Eat? That's another one. I'm sorry, it's Eat to Live. Yeah,
Eat to
Eat
Live.
to Live is
Mhm.
an interesting book. You should check that one out as well.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Last question. You have been shipwrecked onto a deserted island. You can bring along 3 items to survive. What will those 3 items be?
Oh, geez. Let's see here. A deserted island. Does it have trees? I would
It's
say
your island.
it's your island. I would say, let's see, flint, a saw, and a pocket knife.
Great option.
Yeah.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in this journey of learning and inspiration. Today we've gained insights from our guests and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussions have given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on one of my social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn, and I'd love for you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening. Be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.